Hello, welcome back to the channel. As you can see, we're in a new area, so to keep it short, I have moved to Fort Campbell for the year. So videos are kind of slow right now as I get moved in and kind of get a feel for how my radio is going to be set up. But anyways, I'm also congested, so just bear with me on this video. We're going to talk about something a little controversial, although I think it shouldn't be, and that is digital modes in ham radio and why certain people tend to gravitate toward them and only use them, and why some operators hate digital modes. And it's going to be a little fun because I'm going to show you guys some of the comments I get on my channel. Mostly on my channel, I get positive comments, but for some reason on the digital mode videos, I tend to get some hate. And I'm going to show those on screen without the name on it just to start a discussion and talk about the mentality a little bit. And we're going to talk about the mentality of the younger generation and the mentality of the older generation and in ham radio, and how those kind of collide with each other and create these opposing viewpoints on digital modes and how ham radio should be conducted. So I want this to be a discussion. If you guys want to comment something down below, I don't want to be biased. As you guys know, I do like my digital modes, but I'm going to try to remain impartial here and truly understand what the hate is for. And we're also going to talk about a article I saw on Hackaday that was posted quite a number of years ago that sums up why I don't typically like voice. But anyways, let's go ahead and get into the video by just kind of talking about why people might do digital modes. And then we'll shift into why people don't like doing digital modes, or even go out of their way to be angry about digital modes being available in the first place. So I think that one of the largest targets for digital modes is actually the younger generation of hams. I am a younger generation ham. I was born in 95. I'm 27 years old. I grew up with access to the internet, access to my cell phone, and well, I didn't really grow up with my cell phone. I got it later, but I got used to being able to look up information on just like that. Whenever I need it, it's right there. If I want to contact anybody in the world, as long as I have their contact information, I can do that with my phone. If I want to contact any of my friends or relatives, I can do that within a few minutes on my phone. And growing up with this instant gratification when it comes to contacting people, or even social media, or finding out information online, everything is at my fingertips like that, right? Just like that, I can look something up and I have it. So that's kind of embedded into me. If I want something, if I want to contact somebody, I do it. It happens really quick. It's an instant gratification, right? I don't have to work for it. And some of you guys might see that's the key there. Well, we'll talk about that here in a minute. Being a millennial and growing up in, this instant gratification, when it comes to ham radio, some of the voice contacts are just slow and exaggerated, and it kind of conflicts with our, millennial mindset. And I'm kind of dogging on myself right here, right? I don't know. It could be a good thing. I don't know if it's a consequence. It's a lot easier for me to load up a digital mode like FT8, and if my goal is literally, quite literally, just to the technical side of things, I want to see how far my antenna setup can go, how far my radio can reach out, if the gutter outside can get to Alaska. I will go into digital mode like FT8. I would set up that, try to make a contact. Signal reports are exchanged, which are technical. I get a valid signal report back and forth, and I can also check my beacons online to see where my signal's propagated to. So we get that instant gratification, right? I can see exactly where my radio is contacting. I can see exactly where my signal's going, and I can get a signal report from those places if those operators decide to contact me. Or I can see it online on PSK Reporter. I can actually see a signal report. So for me being a millennial, and I'm into radio for the technical side of things, digital modes are really nice for me. I get to tinker with a digital mode. I get to get instant signal reports, valid signal reports from a computer, and I can do all that pretty fast. Not only that, but I also don't have to talk on the phone. And we're going to talk about why young people might not like that here in a minute. Another reason people may use digital modes is if they live in a high noise environment. So up until now, I've lived into like upstairs apartment complexes surrounded by 4 different people. And the majority of the time, my noise floor was, S7 to S9. And that means that unless the signal's coming through stronger than that, I'm not going to pick them up. This made phone contacts pretty hard to understand. If I could get my signal out, I wasn't always to understand the operator because my noise floor was just too high. However, with that signal mode, with like FT8 or JT8 or whatever's on the market right now, despite me having a high noise floor, it wasn't too difficult for those signals to protrude through that I was trying to contact, and I was actually able to get on the radio. And I think that's one of the more valid reasons that digital modes is helpful for a ham radio, because especially a lot of younger people, we don't have houses with giant antennas outside. We have to compromise, and digital modes allow us to do that. And not all holder hams hate digital signal, right? This is controversial. I know people are going to get upset no matter what I say in this video. It is what it is. But when the older generation hams went in, they had to do code. So that was a important part of the examination, was they had to do so many words per minute in Morse code in order to obtain their license. And with that came a sense of, I guess, pride in the work that they do whenever they use the ham radio, because doing CW is a skill that has to be trained and it has to be practiced, and it's a skill that you develop over time that really shows through the radio. There's something to admire about a ham radio operator that's really good at Morse, because they had to go out of their way to learn that skill and use it on the radio, and that's something that I admire about people that know code. Another thing is they're usually retired. A lot of the older hams that are on they're not working. They have pretty much all day to play radio, and they have comfortable setups to do so. So it's not a big deal for them to just get on the radio and chew the rag for hours sometimes and make a single contact, because they don't. So a lot of times they don't really have a whole lot to do besides that's their hobby. That's their life now. So they've already went through life. They've worked, gained money, did retired, and now they're playing radio. And so a lot of times, if they have to spend a long time on a contact, it's more so because they're enjoying the contact with that person, not necessarily just to contact another person. Whereas with a millennial mindset, a lot of times we're working, we're going to school, we have video games, we have all these things that we're doing in our life. So when it comes to radio, it becomes less of a conversation with somebody and more so, okay, I've got so many hours here that I can fit in my day. How am I going to use those on the radio to achieve the goals that I want to achieve? And if that's worked all states, if that's worked all continents, or whatever it is, the quickest way to get there is typically going to be a digital mode, because you don't sit and talk with the operator for a long time. This is the mentality of the comments. So I've kind of broken down. I respect Morse. I respect having the skill to do CW and make a phone contact. But let's get real here. And I'm sorry if this shatters some egos, but amateur radio is called amateur radio for a reason. You're not an expert. You're just using radio casually, right? And some hams who have gotten their Morse code, for some reason, they tend to think that it's a sense of entitlement and that all they suffer through it, so everybody else should too. And that argument goes along with a lot of the stuff going on in the world today, right? The whole Democrats versus Republicans crap. We're not going to talk about that, but all right. So this comment was on one of my FTA videos. My dad was a ham radio operator, and my mom knew Morse. It's an interaction and skill that counts. Any fool can click a mouse. Well, it's the interaction and skill that counts. What does it count for? That's the question. Does it count for making a contact? No, because as long as your computer's making the contact with another computer and you're driving it, well, you made the contact. We've already kind of cleared that that's an established contact method, right? So where do you draw the line with this mentality between the computer doing the work and the operator doing the work? Because there's a ton of digital modes, And depending on which one you choose, some do more of the work than others. Some of them, like, RIDI or PSK, you're actually typing on the keyboard. So that does require a little bit more work, but maybe not as much as Morse code. But any fool can click a mouse. This is where like there's a deep, I don't know, hatred for digital modes, and you'll see it kind of in the comments on my show. But yeah, any fool can click a mouse. I get a lot of people on my digital videos, especially a lot of older hams that don't work with computers as much as the young people, and they need help, and that's why they watch my videos. I don't know why this user went to an FT8 setup guide just to make this comment. I don't know if maybe they were attempting to learn how to do it and they couldn't figure it out, so they got mad and wrote the comment, or it's either that or they intentionally saw the video and said, I don't like that. I'm going to go make sure that they know that they're all fools. Either way, kind of a toxic mentality. Let people do what they want to do. On the opposite end, let's see if I can make this any bigger. We have comments kind of like this right here. I've been a ham for 60 years and I haven't used a young Elmer. I wouldn't call myself that, but I just got the FT8 set up. Don't worry about what is old or new. Just have fun on your journey. And this one right here is kind of a light in the dark. This person's been a ham obviously for quite a while, and they understand that it's all part of the journey that you're on, right? There's different ways to do and enjoy ham radio. This is kind of like a, I don't know, like a passive aggressive comment. Ham radio must go with the times, going digital to stay relevant. Okay, good statement. But then they go on to say, and yet at times we can always throw back to nostalgic moments when the hobby was enjoyed with hands-on tinkering and ingenuity. There's different types of ingenuity here, right? Sure, like hands-on, you have hands-on ingenuity where you're doing things with your hands, but I don't I wouldn't call I would call all the development of these digital modes definitely ingenuity. There's all kinds of new technology being developed used in different ways and new systems to build around that. So that's an example of ingenuity and definitely an example of tinkering. Maybe you're tinkering with software on the computer, but it's still tinkering in software. So all right, so we're back to these two. Great idea for mime artists. You can always save the hobby by talking about the hobby and not watching a machine flashing numbers. The only thing you seem to talk about is your camera. I don't know. This person's just angry. They're just an angry person. I couldn't tell you why, but I don't know. He's talking about saving the. I never talk about saving the hobby. I don't know what talking about saving the hobby is, but I don't know. I asked this person or did reply to them. I said, what are you doing to save the hobby? Like, I'm not trying, the hobby's not dying. It's shifting. But I asked them, what are you doing to save the hobby? Why are you on this video talking about setting up digital modes? And you're mad that I'm, I don't know, making a video about it? That's just an example of just a grumpy person, right? So probably didn't add to the discussion, but 3 easy steps. Get a license. Don't know anything about radio or electronics. Okay. Buy computer hardware. Pretend that your computer is making a contact, not you, is an achievement. FT8 is not amateur radio. It's amateur computer. It's a joke. This is another one where, I don't know, the person's just angry. They're just angry at something. I have no idea why they're angry, right? They're just assume that anybody that uses FT8 doesn't know anything about radio electronics. He's telling me this, man. I worked with radio and electronics in the military for 7 years now. I don't know what you're talking about. Anyways, buy computer hardware. Pretend that the computer's making content is an achievement. This kind of roots in with no one's talking about ham radio contacts being an achievement. If anything, I do it because it's fun. It's not an achievement for me. I do it because I enjoy doing it. I'm not doing it because, I don't know, sometimes I'm trying to achieve a freaking, I don't know, an award or something, but that's not up for me to decide if whatever digital mode can get an award. I think that might be the AWRL I think could be who decides that and puts out the rules. But this is another example. The individual saw a FT8 setup video and decided to come, I don't know, be mad about it. No skin off my back. FT8, it's not amateur radio, it's amateur computer. Okay. What about RIDI? And what about all the digital electronics in your radio, right? Do you use one of these modern radio with advanced, noise filtering and DSP and digital signal processing? All the computer stuff's in the radio now. So if you're going to worry about, I don't know, computers making contacts or whatever, take it out of your, go get a radio, 20 or 30, 40 years old and use that. Because otherwise, the computer's just helping you make the contact, right? I don't know, strange mentality. Let's look at some more. So we talked a little bit now about, some of the hate mentality that I see on the channel, but there are a few good comments out there. So the reason why these people make these comments, right, and this is just my opinion, is they probably did their CW test back when. They don't know how to use a computer with digital modes. Maybe they don't know how to set it up. So to them, it's this advanced thing in the beginning where you set it up, and then the operator lays back and watches the computer make contacts. Actually, that's not too far from how it goes. But why is that a bad thing? And why does that make you better than that person? Just because that kind of goes back to, just because you know code or you don't use digital modes doesn't make you a good operator. I think there's a lot of different things that come into play. Knowledge of the radio, how they work, the way you conduct yourself with the radio community. And a lot of these comments that are just, clicking on the video, it's not good conduct. It's not friendly, and it drives people away. So I would say that those qualities in themselves make you a worse operator. After all, ham radio is about communicating with people, and if you can't do that, you're a poor operator, right? When it gets down to it, it's just about communicating with people, or the technical aspects of it too, I guess. But making comments like that it doesn't. It's not a sign of a good operator. Sure, you might know how to do code, but if you can't learn new technology or willing to open your mind to it, then with amateur radio being about the advancement of the radio art, you're not really advancing much just by staying with code or single sideband or something like that. What made me make this video was I've always been a fan of digital modes. I haven't really explained too much why, but I had a classic example of it the other day when I was working on a video with the rain gutter antenna, and which is probably going to be the next video. I'm talking about doing 10 meters on my rain gutter at this new place, right? Because I just wanted to try it out. Well, I turned on the FT8, put some beacons out on 10 watts, saw how far it went, and then up to 20, and then 50 watts. And I wanted to see how far my signal was going through FT8. And after that, I made a contact for the video just to show making it, contact through the gutter. After that, I wanted to make a phone contact, and I don't get on phone much at all. The only time I get on single sideband and actually talk with an operator is if I'm doing POTA, or if I'm doing a video over something specific and I want that contact in the video. And it reminded me why when I went to go to phone, I picked up the mic, I found a frequency that wasn't in use, and I started calling CQ. Called CQ for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. It's freezing outside, right? So I'm like, come on, somebody please come back to me. And I was like, man, FT8, if I just get on FT8, someone would just reply to me, So I was like, well, maybe I'll find somebody else calling CQ. So I spin the dial around, and I found two operators talking with each other. And I was like, maybe I can get on this and get one of them to give me a radio check. And I had the classic, and I'm sorry, this is going to offend people. This is going to offend someone. But I sat there and listened to these two operators talk on phone, and I couldn't get a word in because, and this is the root problem with phone and young people. I want my instant gratification. I want to get a contact with somebody. I want to get that done because it's freezing outside. I just got off work. I've got so many hours left in the day. I want to go ahead and make a contact with somebody, get this video, show people it can work. Instead, I had to listen to. I went to chime in with these hams, and I was sitting there listening, waiting for the individual I was talking to just let off the microphone for a second so I could kind of try to come in and ask for a quick radio check between either of the operators. But I waited about 5 to 10 minutes. I forgot how long it was, and that operator never let off the mic. And this is my biggest pet peeve with trying to make phone contacts, is people will not let off the mic. They just keep talking, and they talk about nothing. This is where I like digital modes. I like digital modes because I get my signal report back and forth. I see where I'm going. I get a technical output of how strong my signal is, how strong their signal is, and then the contact's over. That's my goal as an operator. I want to make that contact. I want to see, and if just to cater to you guys, I want to see my computer make that contact. I want to see how far my radio is reaching to that other individual. So instead, I listen to this guy. He's giving his weather report, and every time that he forgets what he's talking about, or there's something else to say, instead of just unkeying the mic and letting the other operator talk, he just keeps it keyed up and it comes in with filler words. So it's kind of like, it kind of sounded like, yeah, it's about 25 degrees outside. I think it might snow later in the day, and I just put the kids to bed, just kind of sitting out here playing with the radio. I got my new dipole up, bought it from ham radio outlet yesterday, and it seems to be working pretty well on 20 meters and 40 meters. I actually I had one of these before when I was, it just goes on and on. It's rambling. That is the reason. That is the reason that young people don't get on phone. That's it. As a young person, I'll tell you. One of them's mic fright, because for some reason a lot of radio operators are this rude to young people. Don't know why. And the second part of it is the rag chew. The rag chew is not appealing to millennials. We're here for the technical aspects. We're here to see how far our signal gets for the most part. We're here to tinker. We're here to experiment, but we're not here to hold down the mic and talk about nothing for 30 minutes at a time. And we don't have the time to do that, frankly. That we live busy lives. I was sitting out in the cold for so long waiting for that operator to unkey. Eventually I said, screw it. I'll come back later and try to get a contact with somebody else. But it was freezing outside, and the operator just would not let go of the button. And that remind me of a Hackaday article that I'm going to link. I think it's called My Beef with Ham Radio or something. And he talks about growing up, his dad's a police officer, the dad's a police officer, so he would always listen to the scanner frequencies, and whenever his dad would talk or dispatch or whatever, they would exchange information that was needed. They would let go of the mic, right? Because you don't want to just hold up a frequency that could be used for emergency communications or whatnot, talking about nothing. And that's what a lot of phone on ham radio is. It's talking about nothing, and to me, with my little millennial mind, there's only so much that I can listen to somebody just ramble on and on and on without really saying anything at all. And that's what a rag chew is. And although that's appealing to the older operators who are sitting back, they're relaxed, they don't have anything to do with the day, they're retired, and they want to socialize still. They want that social aspect, so they can get on the mic and kind of like I know people used to do on the telephone, 10 years ago. If you're talking to your, boo thing or whatever it be, a lot of times you just sit on the phone and not say much at all. And that's kind of how it is on ham radio. And sometimes I just wish if I could get on phone and make a contact with somebody, get to know where they're at real quick, get to know a little bit about them, that would be fine. But it drives me nuts when I'm trying to talk with somebody and they just won't unkey the mic. Sometimes sometimes you just need to take a breath. And operators don't do that. They hold the mic in and then they take the breath, and whatever the next thought train goes, wherever it goes, it's like a competition to see how long they could talk. And there's only so many times that I can talk about the weather or the temperature outside or the mundane. It's like a competition of small talk, and that drives me crazy. I don't like small talk, and that's what chewing the rag is seeing how long you can draw out that small talk with another operator, and that's not my thing. And I could probably say for a lot of us that are younger, that's not our thing either. Some people love it, not I, and that's why I like digital notes because you don't get that. I get the technical outcome. I'm rambling now. I'm talking without saying much at all. I know, but someone made the comment too on that page that CW cuts out a lot of that nonsense talk because a lot of the things are abbreviated, and not all operators just want to make small talk while they're doing CW. They just want to get the contact across, and that's one part that I admire about CW. One thing that might make me want to learn it. But as for phone, as much as I love the thrill of talking, like getting on there and listening to somebody's voice and they can hear my voice and I know I've made that technical contact, I can't bear to listen to somebody go on and on and on about whether it be the weather or what they're shopping for that day. It drives me nuts. And that's why you won't find me on the phone most of the time. I'm looking at the recording and I'm at 35 minutes, so I'm going to have a lot of video to edit through. And a lot of this stuff is going to get cut out because I don't want to ramble either. But in the end, whether digital modes has its places, I don't think it's saving ham radio. It was nice to use definitely um, when the sun cycle wasn't in its best spot. We could still make contacts. It's not saving ham radio, but it does offer an outlet for those individuals to get into radio that aren't interested in talking over phone to just get in and start making those technical contacts. And tinkering around with software in order to play with ham radio. And I think it's all about how you enjoy ham radio. The thing is, we have a lot of different frequencies to use, and unless there's contest season going on, there's usually a spot that you can get in and use whatever mode that you like to make the contact, whether that be CW, phone, RTTY, FT8, JS8, call, whatever you like doing, there's room to do so. And the cool part about ham radio is we can all experience it in different ways, and there's always a different way to experience it, right? There's always new technology. There's always a new way to operate. There's always a new way to make an antenna. And I think we should respect each other when it comes to what ways we enjoy doing ham radio. But I don't think ham radio is not dying. Digital mode isn't saving ham radio. It's offering a new way for people to communicate. And worried about ham radio dying or the bands not being with a lot of activity, just be nicer to people. That's what it takes. If you're one of those people that, dog on other operators for whatever the mode that they choose to use or whatever, just stop it. Because that's really the problem, right? That's what keeps me off the phone. I don't know how many times I've also just tried to use phone, and the operator on the other end, they can tell that I'm young, or they know that I've made YouTube videos on digital, and they usually don't like to talk to me. I've heard some nasty stuff over the radio, and that's unfortunate. So I think we should all just kind of respect the way that each other wants to operate. I respect someone who knows code in CW. I respect the skill that they use to do that, and I would hope that they would return the respect to digital operators for knowing how to use the computers and set up the digital devices and stuff like that. I know it doesn't take as much skill once you have everything set up, but there is an amount of operator intervention that has to go on to setting that stuff up and make it work correctly without distorting your signal and the waterfall and all that all that good jazz. So let's just respect each other. And if you have like a valid reason that you think that digital mode's bad, leave it down in the description. If you have valid reason why you don't do phone or CW, leave that down in the description too. But let's try to keep it civilized. And some of the comments that you saw on the screen, let's not try to word it like that. It doesn't need to be passive aggressive. It doesn't have to be for or not for. It could just be a discussion, and we could talk about it like adults, which for some reason we just don't do these days. I'll leave off on a quote from this article. Although he said some pretty harsh stuff, there's one sentence in here that kind of resonated with me that I'll read off now. When it comes to talking on voice, he says, I could overlook the content choice, and he's talking about the small talk of what you're buying for groceries and the weather outside. If someone somewhere would just unkey the mic once in a while and take a breath. And if there's any feedback that comes from this video that you take in, kind of think about that one for a minute. It's good to operator practice, maybe not just to unkey the mic for a moment, let somebody else in, say something. And, if you're talking on and on about something to someone, be cognizant of maybe how the other operator may want to work, because not everyone wants to hear the small talk. It's probably just a rant. Anyways, 73 to you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.